some discussion not only of the election, but the way forward. And I think it's pretty obvious we may or may not be voting tomorrow. But I think the outcome is pretty clear. I want to repeat again, I have the votes. I will be elected. The only issue is whether we do it sooner or later, and I think we'll probably have another discussion about that tomorrow.
Well, one thing is clear out of the election, and that is that it's still going to be a very divided Senate. And the people in this country who on many of the big issues are very divided are, have elected a divided Senate. So it's we're going to be sort of battling it out again over a lot of the big issues of the day. But one thing that hasn't changed, and that is that they have very little confidence in this president or in this economy. I mean, 75% of the people in this country think they're worse off today. And that's because of 8.5% unemployment, which is equivalent to a month's pay for people in this country, because utility bills are up 22%. Diesel reserves are at the lowest level since 1951. There are big challenges out there, folks, economic challenges for our country. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. I'm ready to lace them up, and let's get ready to fight it out over the things that I think are really important to our country. And obviously, again, with a evenly divided Senate, a very narrow House of Representatives, at least, I think we'll have a check and balance there. But as we look at the agenda next year, if we're going to get solutions for the American people, we're going to have to figure out how to find common ground. And there are some issues where we're probably not going to agree. But the reality is that's what the voters, and it's their prerogative. They cast their vote. They get to have their voice and vote heard in November of every even-numbered year. And that's the way the people have spoken this year. So we take that result, and we will move forward in a way, hopefully, that reflects the strong feelings that people have on a lot of the issues, and try where we can to find solutions.
Well, I spent the last 6 weeks traveling around Wyoming and the West. And so many people are hurting. They're hurting all across the country because of 40-year high inflation, because of prices up about between 13 and 14% since Joe Biden took office, and people feel they're falling further and further behind. Talk about fuel costs, whether it's diesel or regular gasoline. Diesel's $2 a gallon more than gasoline now. That is devastatingly painful for our farmers and ranchers in the production and agriculture. People trying to heat their homes, much more expensive. Electricity is up. Thing like fentanyl, you think, well, that's not coming to Wyoming. Well, it has. Every state is now a border state, and we've had an increased number of deaths fentanyl-related, even in Wyoming. So all of these things are impacting the American people, and people are suffering. Republicans have offered ideas and solutions to the Democrats, and the Democrats have disregarded them. The president held a press conference the day after the election, and reporters said, Mr. President, 73% of the American people say the country's heading in the wrong direction. What are you going to change? The President of the United States said, no changes. No, don't expect anything to be different. Well, we have divided government. The American people want us to find solutions to their problems, even if the president isn't going to change a thing. And for me, in talking to the people of Wyoming, it's to continue to focus on affordability, getting prices down, energy independence, and getting the border closed.
It was a disappointing election, and one thing that was consistent across the board between Republicans, Democrats, and independents is that they all believe that our country is headed in the wrong direction. And if you look at, let's just use the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday as an example, our families are going to find that their food prices are 11% higher than they have been. Turkeys, 23% higher in cost. And believe me, we raise a lot of turkeys in my great state of Iowa. But if you look at the feed costs, the cost to heat those barns where the animals are kept, you look at diesel costs, you look at all of the costs that our farmers and our growers are subjected to, It's costing more for our American families, regardless of where they live. Propane is going up. We have grain still coming in the state of Iowa that will have to be dried before it goes to market. Diesel costs are through the roof, and we have no solutions coming from the Democratic Party on how to help with inflation. So what we have to do now is come together, and hopefully the Democrats will work with Republicans on solutions for American families, because those families are hurting right now. So let's all stop the insults, let's all stop the finger pointing, and let's start working together on real solutions that matter for all of our families.
Leader McConnell. Leader McConnell.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, you okay? You okay? All right. The rest of the job.
Do you have a casualty here?
Yes, I think so. Obamacare will take care of it.
Yeah.
In any event, we have this statement from Rick Scott going to challenge you. You said that you will have the votes. He says if you're for the status quo, don't vote for the don't vote for him. Do you interpret yourself as the status quo, and how do you respond to his challenge?
Well, look, I don't own this job. Anybody in the conference is certainly entitled to challenge me, and I welcome the contest.
One of the criticisms from Senator Scott and others who agree with him is that your decision not to have an agenda to run on opened up Republican candidates to attacks, that they didn't really stand for anything. What is your response to the criticism that you approached the response?
Every one of our candidates knew what they were for, expressed it quite clearly. It's pretty obvious, and all of you have been writing about it, what happened. We underperformed among independents and moderates because their impression of many of the people in our party in leadership roles is that they're involved in chaos, negativity, excessive attacks, and it frightened independent and moderate Republican voters. And we saw that, which is why you all recall I never predicted a red wave. We never saw that in any of our polling in the states that we were counting on to win. There was no wave. We had national issue set that was favorable, but as a result of our own, the perception many of them had that we were not dealing with issues in a responsible way, and that we were spending too much time on negativity and attacks and chaos, they were frightened, and so they pulled back. We, in two states, for example, excuse me, in two states, for example, got just crushed by independent voters, Arizona and New Hampshire. So we learned some lessons about this, and I think the lesson's pretty clear. Senate races are different. Candidate quality, you recall I said in August, is important. And in most of our states, we met that test. In a few of them, we did not.
Non-leadership question. The Senate is set to take a procedural vote tomorrow on the Respect for Marriage Act. Some of your members have worked on amendments to that bill, adding religious liberty protections to that. How do you plan to vote on that bill? What are your views at this point?
Yeah, I haven't announced my I'm going to take one more.
Do you plan to take any action in the lame duck on Ukraine aid or the debt limit?
I don't think the debt limit issue is until sometime next year. On Ukraine, I'm a robust supporter of Ukraine. We need to get them what they need to continue to fight this war. I think they have the capacity to win it, particularly if we give them what they need.
Mr. Leader,